To the live, let's talk some Texans after they fall in Baltimore to the Baltimore Ravens 25-9. Plenty in this game. The big picture thoughts coming out of Baltimore as the Ravens get the victory today. What did we make of CJ Stroud's debut at the quarterback spot? The offensive line woes. Woe is me having to talk about this once again. DeMeco Ryans was aggressive. The defense had a big day. So much to get to. Let's get into all of it on the video. Appreciate you watching live. If you are indeed watching live, the thumbs up button down below. Would appreciate that. A subscription to the YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. And tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell an acquaintance. Send this to your grandma. Have her turn it on streaming. Grandmas know how to work YouTube, don't they? Maybe she's a big Texans fan, or grandpa, or maybe grandma and grandpa, but let them do it on individual devices, so that they can interact however they like to interact with this. Oh, man, so much to get to about this game. Let's not waste any time, and let's get into it. The comments are indeed appreciated, and we will get to those as we can. We will favorite those and come back to them if we can't get to them in live action. So, big picture coming out of this one. The Houston Texans lose this game to the Baltimore Ravens 25-9. And it felt like there was a portion of this game, and certainly at halftime, I thought, okay, a couple things start bouncing the right way for the Texans, and the next thing you know, maybe they lead this game, maybe they win this game. But coming out of halftime, Baltimore made some adjustments at halftime. Some of the things that hadn't been clicking for the Ravens started to click for the Ravens. They got going on third down and were really tough to get off the field on third down to start that second half. I believe they started the second half on third down, 4 of 4. They were putting points on the board, and the Texans came out of halftime. Those first two drives, Texans got the ball flat on offense. Baltimore got the ball, moved the ball, not with ease, but moved the ball pretty well. And at that point, it's like, okay, it's going to be pretty tough unless the Ravens give you an opportunity to get in this game. It's going to be pretty tough to win this game, but you could still make it respectable. And Stroud did that a couple of different times, had some moments where he was moving the football. Overall, this is a Texans team that lost to a much better Ravens team. A Ravens team that was a playoff team last year, should be better than they were last year this season. And it looked like a team that was missing 3 starters on the offensive line. It looked like a team that had a rookie quarterback running a brand new offense. It looked like a team that had a rookie head coach. It looked like a team that had a first-time play caller as an offensive coordinator. Like, some of the things that were true about the Texans before this game started became apparent during the course of this game. Some of the decision-making from DeMeco Ryans, which we'll break down on this today. Some of the play calls from Bobby Slowick and how overly inventive they seem to get at different times. We'll talk about that. And, oh, by the way, that offensive line, the woes of the offensive line continue, and some of the issues from that continue. So all the things that could have popped up to me about this Texans team that would have been something that you would have been concerned about. Hey, first-time head coach, how's DeMeco Ryans going to handle operating the game? Well, that popped up a couple times. Bobby Slowick popped up a couple times. Rookie quarterback CJ Stroud popped up a couple times. Like, the list of things that showed up are things you believed would show up. I don't know that we can sit here and say there's a whole bunch of things that we didn't expect to show up that, like, surprised us. Like, I'm a little surprised Laramie Tunsil had a couple of penalties. One of them was a total phantom holding call. A little surprised Laramie Tunsil has a couple, but nobody's perfect on the offensive line. Guys are going to have penalties over the course of the game. So that's not a huge issue for me, but, Josh Jones with 2 penalties. He's backup left guard. He's going to make some mistakes. He's going to have to hold to stop some of these defenders. That's a good Baltimore Ravens team. And you made them earn it. You made them fight for it. It's a war of attrition that on that front, Baltimore's coming out of here. They're missing their starting running back. They're missing their starting left tackle, and they're missing their starting safety coming out of this. Now the Texans are coming out of this, and they're missing both their starting safeties and 3 of their offensive linemen. So it was a tough game. It felt like, unfortunately, there were moments to be much better and moments to stick around in that game. And maybe coming out of halftime, if things started to break the right way, you could have won that football game. But ultimately, some of the red flags that we had about the Texans for this early portion of the season showed up, and that's what kept them from being victorious in this game. We'll dive into a little bit more detail throughout the game. CJ Stroud's conversation about CJ Stroud is coming your way next, but let's get to some of the comments. Comments are encouraged throughout the stream. Appreciate you interacting however you're interacting. Maybe you're commenting, or maybe you just want to hit that thumbs up button down below. We'll get to as many of the comments as we can, and if I can't get to your comment here, I will try to start and get back to it today. Willie Boy P, such a mixed bag today. Happy to see CJ and Will Anderson balling out. Sad to see the result. Certainly. You would have preferred that the Houston Texans win this game, played a little bit closer. I texted a buddy of mine as the Texans were getting the ball back late. I said, listen, 25-16 is going to feel a lot different than 25-9 when this is all said and done, not just for gambling purposes, but 25-16, yeah, it would have been a touchdown late in the game where you probably weren't getting the ball back to win the football game or to go out there and catch the Baltimore Ravens from that standpoint. But 25-16 would have felt a lot better than 25-9. One, it would have been a touchdown drive. And two, it would have shown a little bit of cohesiveness that would pop up late in the game. So, you didn't get a touchdown drive out of this. You'll have opportunities to score touchdowns next week when the Indianapolis Colts are in town for the home opener. Austin, I feel good about it, though. Look, I don't feel terrible about this game. I don't feel terrible about this team coming out. There's definitely some things about the Texans organization and about this coaching staff and about these players that, okay, let's see what you're made of now. Let's see what type of coach DeMeco Ryans is in shoring up this or that aspect of the defense or fixing his approach as a game manager. Let's see what kind of offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick is. Is he the type of guy that's going to hammer through some of these questionable play calls? Or is he going to take that, scrap it because it doesn't work? Or is he going to take that, figure out why it's not working, and make sure it works next time? Like, this is where you start to find out about this team. When you get this level of input coming out of this game, you should be able to improve and make your output much better later on. That's what I'm excited to see about with this coaching staff and with these players as well. Christian, I'd like to add that I thought time management was poor. So many wasted timeouts. Yeah, we'll get to the timeout usage in the first half. It was a little bit better in the second half. Still, kind of annoyed coming out of a kickoff that you had to use a timeout. Keith Chaos says, way too much pressure on Stroud. I thought he had moments when it was cleaner. He had 3 or 4 penalties that brought back receptions as well. Yeah, the team overall did not prop up CJ Stroud as much as you would have liked for them to. Sean G. To me, CJ played well for what he had to deal with the offensive line and the Baltimore defense. He needs to improve getting rid of the ball sooner and getting those can't-miss throws on point. Yeah, there was a moment with CJ Stroud. And let's go ahead and get into CJ Stroud's debut. There was a moment where he'd maneuvered the pocket just a little bit. He put it over the middle, and it was just a pass that he can't miss. Like he wasn't rushed. There wasn't a defender in tight coverage. He just threw the ball to the wrong spot. The wide receiver didn't catch it. Like, that's a play to me that just can't happen on a regular basis and really shouldn't happen next week. Like, that's something that should get coached out in a week's time. Just a wide open guy. You just can't miss that wide open guy if you're CJ Stroud. This is not a team that can overcome penalties, can overcome missed throws like that, can overcome drops. Like, this is just not as talented enough team to overcome those things just yet. So with Stroud, I felt like early on he had some jitters. And you even heard it from the broadcast. If you watched the CBS broadcast of it, you heard the sideline reporter report that DeMeco Ryans kind of, got to CJ Stroud and said, hey, just be you. Just play your game. Do what got you here is kind of was the message from DeMeco Ryans to CJ Stroud. And then after a couple of like antsy, scattered moments, Stroud sort of started to settle down. He handled the pressure pretty well at times, escaping a couple times. Maybe he made some questionable moves with the football once he did escape, but he handled the pressure pretty well. I mean, he rolled out of the pressure and got a first down that was later ripped away from a bogus, phony holding call on Laramie Tunsil, but that was deep in their own territory, and he rolled out of the pressure and got Tank Dell on that first down before it was wiped away via penalty. So Stroud did some good things. He missed a couple of throws. He missed Nico Collins out of bounds where it was just, a non-competitive throw where Collins couldn't even make a play. A throw here or there was low, but you're not going to throw it perfect every time, certainly not dealing with the defense that he was dealing with. And when he is on the move, I'd like to see him fine-tune the decision-making from that standpoint. He tried to take the deep shot to Nico Collins on a scramble out to his left, and I understand why you're trying to make the big play. Ultimately, it goes incomplete, but there were a couple of Ravens defenders around Nico Collins. If you go back and watch that play, Andrew Beck's waving at him like, oh, hey, here I go. Beck's had his defender beat, and it wasn't going to be as impressive of a play, but maybe there's Beck on the next time when CJ Stroud goes and looks through that. It's just, I was encouraged with what CJ Stroud. There wasn't anything where I was like, oh, this guy doesn't have it. Like, think about watching Davis Mills play games over the past couple of seasons. There were moments where we walked out of the games and we're saying to ourselves, oh, the quarterback's a net negative. Quarterback's a net negative. How do you win with this? CJ Stroud is not a net negative. The quarterback is a positive now for the Houston Texans. Hasn't been the case since Deshaun Watson was the quarterback. And really, some of the 2020 Deshaun Watson was rough. Like, it hasn't consistently been the case that the quarterback is a net positive for this team since 2019. And so CJ Stroud was a net positive for the team at the quarterback spot. And for a rookie on the road against the Baltimore freaking Ravens, I thought Stroud had a pretty nice day. It wasn't a great day. It wasn't the best day. There are a load of things that he can improve on. And I really think the game operation aspect is one of those things that he can improve on real quick and right away. But it was a solid day. It's a day that you can build on. And we've talked about this with CJ Stroud. Take steps forward. Sometimes it's going to be a little step. Little tiny baby step. Sometimes it's going to be a big leap forward. Okay. And the leap may come by putting together a couple of easy steps, and then he takes a big jump in a game. But take small steps forward if they have to be small steps, but go forward each week if you're CJ Stroud. And he's got plenty where he can go forward from this game, and plenty where he can take that, improve upon it, and fine-tune some of the things over the next couple of weeks that he didn't like about this game. There's plenty to like about what CJ Stroud put together. Okay? Talk about the offensive line here in just a second. Let's get to some of your comments about CJ Stroud. Theosis, Stroud was disappointing in my opinion. He didn't really hit those easy throws like he's supposed to. Also, Tunsil with the penalties. He's supposed to be paid to not get those penalties. Yeah, a couple. The false start on Tunsil was rough. The holding call was a phantom holding call. I'm not holding it against him. But Theosis, disappointing. I've been disappointed by the quarterback play for the Houston Texans before. This was not one of those days where I was disappointed with how the quarterback performed. That was not the case for me today. Also, if you'd like to ask your question on video, get in here from a call standpoint. I put the link in the comments. All you've got to do is hit it. You'll go backstage. I'll bring you on when I can to get to your question. Christian S. Stroud looked good. He had a few mistakes, but it's his real first game. I thought he's very promising. Then he owned up to his mistakes, and the post-game pressure sounded real mature. He's it. Yeah, there were a couple of plays that you're watching through this game, and you're like, ooh. I mean, the mobility that CJ Stroud showcased, didn't that get you a little excited? And again, he's going to make better decisions after he gets out of the pocket while he's using that mobility to his advantage. But we think back to what he did at Ohio State, and for the most of the career, for the duration of his career, he wasn't moving around a lot. He wasn't using his legs. Well, he went out there. He rushed a couple of times. I'd rather see slides than dives, but I understand why he's diving. He go out there, he rushed a couple of times, and he used his mobility to stay active as a passer and to take advantage of the defense. And as he gets more experience doing that, as he gets more experience doing that, it's going to be more fun to see what he brings to the table. We'll get to a few more of your comments. Zadis Q wants to weigh in from a video point. Zadis, what you got, man?
Good afternoon, Cody. First of all, thanks for letting me on. I've been following you for about a year now, since I kind of got hardcore back into the fandom. My question is, I'd like to talk about the defensive line outside.
Sure.
There were a couple of posts today talking about how Anderson was credited with like 6 pressures, which is the most in a rookie's debut ever. But everybody knows he's going to be a beast. So I was kind of thinking, what are we thinking about the rest of the line, like Rankins, Collins, even Horton to a degree, what we saw on them today?
Sure. I thought Collins had a pretty nice day. He was in there early with some of the stuff from a pass rush perspective. And Grenard had a nice day. I mean, he got the sack by virtue of the pocket kind of getting pushed to him. That was Collins and Anderson. Anderson from the other side, Collins on the inside, kind of had Lamar moving into Grenard. Grenard had a tackle for a loss a little bit later on as well. Hughes was in there on a pressure here or there. I think it was the intentional grounding where Jerry Hughes was in there and had that. So I thought the defensive line had a couple of moments outside of Will Anderson that were pretty nice. And I mean, they stuffed the run a couple of different times. Yeah, there was a few times where somebody got loose and Hill took care of them in the red zone, but I thought the defensive line was fine.
Well, that's good to hear, really. That's all I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
We had a good secondary last year, but we were like dead last in run defense. So if we can get that fixed, that'll be just a huge step forward for the whole team.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I wanted to ask, really. Thank you very much for your time.
Zadis, appreciate you jumping in, man. You want to jump in like him? The link is in the improvements, is in the comments section. Keith Chaos, Stroud almost got Nico killed. He did throw some dangerous balls for the wide receivers to come down with. So that's, again, something to improve on, something to get fine-tuned with his wide receivers. 713 TX Skills. CJ played a good game with not so much protection, just needs to get rid of the ball a little bit faster at times. I can start seeing he's taking note on reading NFL defenses at times. Yeah, he didn't throw into any sort of crazy coverage from a operating the play the way he wants to operate the play. Does that make sense? Let me rephrase that. You think back to the Patriots preseason game. He drops back. He sees the play one way. He throws the ball. All of a sudden, the New England Patriots are running back the other way with the ball. It's one thing to throw into some coverage after the play's broken down and you've scrambled a little bit. It's another thing to throw into some coverage when the play is going the way you're supposed to and he hits the ball. I mean, he threaded the ball through a couple of defenders one time over the middle. He seems to be a bit more comfortable over the middle right now than he does on these sideline plays. So I'll be interested to see if there's a emphasis or a development from that standpoint. But I thought overall a thumbs up day for CJ Stroud. Again, I'm not sitting here telling you he played an amazing game. Like that is not what I'm trying to get to. And there's plenty to clean up. But for Stroud, that first game's about establishing what the base is and then going forward from there. If that's the worst he plays for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, then that's a pretty good start to your NFL career if you're CJ Stroud. John weighs in on CJ Stroud. According to ESPN, CJ only completed 5 of 10 passes over 10 yards. It's not really having a good game. I mean, look, let's put some context on those passes. How many times was he pressured? How did the DB make a play? Again, I'm not going to tell you he had a good game because it was a fine game. That's it. Fine game, build off of it. That's the hope, and that's the plan for CJ Stroud. Sean Weech, I was more disappointed with Slowick and the play calling, play designs. Thought CJ was decent. Yeah, the coaching staff's got some stuff to clean up, and I would think that the offensive play calling is definitely one of those things. I've seen a couple of people talk about it. Let's talk about the offensive line woes. Man. Okay, let's get into this. Stroud was running for his life on a couple of these plays. And I think back to that first 4th down play where they kind of run that slow developing play and the Ravens are on Stroud before he even knows it. Like the offensive line did not play well today. It was a poor performance overall. Had a few penalties that took things back. They didn't get a good push in the rush game. The running backs, okay? I'm not talking about Noah Brown's rush. I'm not talking about CJ Stroud's. The running backs rushed for less than 3 yards per carry against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, part of that's the Ravens. That's a good defense. The other part of that is the offensive line wasn't getting the push. And it was to be expected that there'd be some issues with 3 backups starting, but man, it looked rough more than it looked good. And there was pressure coming from up the middle. There was pressure coming off the edge. And I felt like anytime Baltimore played some type of defensive line game or blitzed somebody, they were right there in CJ Stroud's face. And probably the worst moment of the offensive line wasn't even necessarily the offensive lineman's fault. George Fant gets hurt. He hurt his shoulder. And my goodness, did he look like he was in a terrible bit of pain. He was writhing in pain. George Fant hurts his shoulder. He comes out of the game. So then Michael Dieter comes in. Now, Dieter's elevated from the practice squad. He's available. I don't think Michael Dieter played right tackle at all in training camp. Now, I can't tell you that what every snap Michael Dieter played in training camp, but he played left tackle, he played left guard, and we know he's played center before. So Dieter's in, and he's got a lot of experience at left guard. Okay? Take that, pin that point of emphasis. Then Josh Jones is the left guard. Well, he played last year in Arizona at tackle. Why not put Dieter in at left guard and move Jones out to tackle? Because that's what they eventually did, because the very first play where Michael Dieter's playing right tackle, he allows a fumble sack. And I know Stroud said he should have held on to the ball, but Dieter got worked from the tackle spot. He's not supposed to be playing right tackle. And then they fixed it the next time out. Why did you even allow that to occur the first time? That was tough. That was difficult to watch. And Jones had a couple of penalties that cost you on a couple of drives. Fance didn't block particularly well. Dieter and Jones and and you got to do more shuffling now because maybe Fant's out. And none of this gets fixed for the next few weeks. Like, you're still shuffling and trying to figure things out because Juice Scruggs and Titus Howard are a couple weeks away. So you're still trying to figure a bunch of stuff out while these offensive line woes continue. And it just, I knew it was going to be tough. I didn't expect it to be this tough in the game. I don't know if there's a way that you can go about things from a play calling perspective, like keeping more guys in, but of course that limits your options. There's a lot that the team has to assess, and there's a lot that the team has to assess and work on to help this offensive line. There's no fixing. Okay, there's no fixing of the offensive line. You got to help this offensive line. That's where you are right now with this offensive line. So, offensive line woes, that was yucky. Didn't like that. If you want to get in from a call perspective, you certainly can, like our guy Johnny. Johnny wants to weigh in. What do you got for us, Johnny?
What's up, my man, Cody?
How you living?
Oh, Sunday football. Football is back. I'm feeling great, man.
Yep.
I got the YouTube Sunday ticket pulled up right behind me right now. I muted it
Nice.
so it wouldn't interfere with the questions I had. I don't know if this isn't even really so much of a question, but I was just going to kind of leave some of the fans out there where you talked about the era of good vibes, right? When all this started. I guess give me your 3 era of good vibes moments out of this game. I'm going to give you mine first, and then I'll let you follow up. What I took from it was CJ Stroud adjusted to the pressure really well throughout the game. He definitely had some jitters early, but he went 28 of 44, 242 yards. I mean, that's pretty good for a rookie quarterback. Didn't have a touchdown, which was disappointing, but Second one was the run defense looked much better than last year, in my opinion, especially against a Ravens defense or a Ravens offense that can run the ball. And then the third thing was Nico Collins, man. Nico Collins and Robert Woods both looked really, really good. I thought they had some great catches and some moments that we really needed to convert on third down. That was kind of my 3 takeaways. So I'm a guy of 3s. So I'm gonna let you give me your 3 good vibes moments from the game.
Stroud looks like he's got something to him. I don't know if it's, franchise QB, but there's something there. So you can build on that. That's one of them. Will Anderson's as advertised. I mean, it's not supposed to look like Alabama versus a cupcake in November, but that's what it looked like for Will Anderson a couple of different times. I mean, he got Morgan Moses to false start at one point. He helped force the interception. He sacked Lamar to get the first third down stop in the second half. So Will Anderson's there. And then I would say that, to kind of echo your point about the rush defense, but to focus specifically on the linebackers, Denzel Perryman was flying around in there, and he was in there knifing in on some plays. To'o was in on a play or two. They got Littleton in the mix.
And they need it with Petrie being out. They're going to have that guy.
Yep. So the linebackers are going to have to play really well while those safeties get healthy. And, I would think Blake Cashman's probably not that far from coming back, so that gives you another a linebacker to run out there. So from that standpoint, I would say that those 3, Stroud, Anderson, and then specifically within the rush defense, the linebackers, because they looked lost at times last year trying to stop the run.
It's great stuff, man. Yeah, love it. Keep doing your thing. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it, brother.
Johnny, appreciate you for jumping in. You want to jump in like Johnny, you certainly can. I put the link in the comment section, or you can throw on your comments just like this. A lot of questions about Tank Dell. That was one of the underutilized aspects of this offense, it felt like. Dell ends the day with, I believe, 4 targets, 3 catches. Yeah, 4 official targets, 3 catches. Obviously, one of those, which was like a 10-yard gain, got wiped away because of the penalty from Laramie Tunsil that I didn't believe was a penalty. And so I would like to see more Dell. I don't know that you want to force it to him, but getting him utilized a little bit more, some of those screen plays, some of those sideways plays, the sideways passing, I'd put that in the hands of Tank Dell, not Noah Brown. Okay? You saw the Ravens do this with Zay Jones. They went sideways passing. Zay Jones was the best player on the field for the Ravens outside of Lamar. And they put the ball in his hands in a sideways pass, and then boop, 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 next thing you know, he's going. That's what Tank Dell can do. Noah Brown can't do that. So this sideways passing stuff, this organization has done this for years, and it's so annoying to watch on Sundays. If you're going to throw the ball sideways, put it in the hands of somebody that can make a freaking play. Like Noah Brown's not making anybody miss and cutting it upfield. Tank Dell can do that. Like put the ball in the hands of guys that can make a freaking play if you're going to throw the ball sideways. And I thought Slowick got a little bit overly creative with some of the play calls. When the offensive line's struggling, you don't want a bunch of these slow developing plays. I didn't like the 4th down play. I didn't like the 4th down play when they went for it the first time. I didn't like the 4th down play going for it after they had the slowdown. Now, the broadcast said, and let's go ahead and get into it here. We're going to work backwards. The second 4th down play, and then we'll go to the first one. The second 4th down play. That play, that drive initially goes in the crapper because of a holding call. And then CJ Stroud gets Nico he gets him for 16 when they need 17. And the Texans run to the line, and they're getting ready to go for it. And the Ravens are still kind of moving, and then the officials blow it dead. Now, I liked the aggressiveness at that spot. I liked the moment to use that opportunity. I liked the aggressiveness. But once the officials blow it dead, you got to punt the ball. The surprise, the element of surprise, the element of you knowing exactly what you're going to do and the defense having to get, that's gone. And they lined up the same way. And so the Ravens had at least a guess on what was going to happen. Well, you know what was going to happen? They're going to hand the ball to Dameon Pierce. Next thing you know, Roquan Smith's knifing in there, and it's a tackle for a loss, turnover on downs. Once the officials stop the play, you've got a punt in that spot. And the broadcasters said the officials stopped that play because they believe the Texans substituted. If the Texans substituted, you can't do that there. If you're trying to hurry, you can't substitute. That's a foolish thing. You're not going to get the playoff. If you didn't substitute and the officials screwed you, well, they still removed the element of surprise that you possessed, and you should not go for it in that spot. You should have punted the ball. Unfortunately, they didn't. They went for it. Dameon Pierce got stuffed, got crushed, actually. Didn't even get close to the first down. Neither play, on 4th and short, neither play got close to a first down. That was disappointing. So the second one, I liked the idea of it, but once the officials stopped the game, you got to punt the ball. The first one, again, I liked the aggressiveness. I didn't like the play call. Like, if you're going to go for it, 4th and 1, and it was a short one. Hammer Dameon Pierce there. You know, put him behind Shaq Mason and hammer Dameon Pierce there. And so that's one of the things that I was disappointed about. Again, I like the decisions, and that's going to be something fun to monitor from DeMeco Ryans over the course of this game, or over the course of his coaching career, is how aggressive he keeps things. But I didn't like the actual calls, and I didn't like staying aggressive after the officials. You know, maybe the officials screwed you. If you substituted, that's a bad job by you. If you didn't and the officials thought you did, the officials screwed you and you still should have punted. That's where I'm at on that one. I liked the spots, especially the one early. I like them better. The one early gets kind of wiped away because you get the interception. You don't make that play knowing you're going to get the interception. And the defense had just forced a 3-and-out too, or had just forced the Ravens to punt. So it's a worthwhile conversation to say you shouldn't have gone for it either time. The first one gets sort of explained away by the interception. The second one, to me, was just, you couldn't do that once the officials stopped the game. And hey, learning opportunity here. Learning opportunity here for DeMeco Ryans, whoever makes the play calls, things like that. Learning opportunity. All right, your questions. What do you got for us? For me, for each other. What do you got from a question standpoint coming out of this game? Okay? Fire your questions away in the comment section. I'll answer as many as I can. If you want to get in on a call, I put the link in the comment section so you can get in there as well. Don't forget to hit that like button on the video. It's down below. It's the little thumbs up button. You hit that. That helps out the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out Houston Football. www.houfootball.com is where you can find all my writing on the Houston Texans. I do a ton of writing about the team. The website is free, but some content is behind the paywall. You can get started for just $7 a month. That's right. What can you buy for $7? That doesn't get you a Chipotle. That doesn't get you a fancy coffee at the Starbucks. Okay? It does get you a whole month of Houston football. And if you subscribe for the annual subscription, you end up with 2 months free. That's right, 2 months free. Couple of starred questions, then we'll get to the live questions. Christian Esk earlier asked, any clue how long Petrie will be out with the bruised lung? Man, this is tough to hear. Bruised lung. Aaron Wilson reported he's coughing up blood. Tom Pelissero was the first to say he had the bruised lung and he was headed to the hospital, might remain overnight for observation. Will Jalen Petrie? I know that it says maybe a week he's back, in some of the WebMD stuff that I've seen people post on social media. I'm not so keen that it's going to be just a week. I would think the best look for Petrie is that he's probably back for Jacksonville in week 3, or at the latest, if it is indeed just the bruised lung, at the latest Pittsburgh in week 4. But I'm not super keen on saying he's going to play next week. It didn't. Something like that feels like it'd be tough to play his spot the way he plays it right away. Frazier, Grenard was benefiting pretty well when they paired him with Will Anderson. Yeah, I thought Jonathan Grenard had a solid performance and plenty to like about what Grenard brought to the table. He had the sack on Lamar Jackson, one of the 2 sacks on the day. He had another tackle for a loss. 3 official sacks on the day. Christian Harris had a sack, according to the stat sheet. I think that was a tackle for no gain is what I would call that one. But Grenard had another tackle for a loss. So solid day from him, pairing him and Will Anderson. I mean, Anderson just kind of makes all the other 3 off defensive linemen's jobs so much easier with the way that he approaches and the aggressiveness. And I had somebody ask a really good question on Twitter to me. Man, it feels like he's going hard every play. Do you ever get worried about him maybe tiring out? That's why they call him the Terminator, baby, because he doesn't tire out. The Terminator's ready to rock. Jeremy Crawford, Stoots, game 2 will be better than game 1. They will get better. They got to. There's no other option. You got to get better. You got to get better. Let's get up to some of these questions here. Can they pick up any new offensive linemen? I mean, they've got guys who didn't play that they can try. I don't anticipate that they're going to sign any offensive linemen. If there's a guy worth signing, I would have thought they would have signed him last week and had him ready for this week. So I don't believe they're going to sign any offensive linemen, but I didn't feel like Patterson was bad at the center spot for being a rookie making his first start in the NFL. I didn't think he was bad at the center spot. Jones had a couple of penalties at left guard. You may need him to play right tackle now if George Fant is injured. So then that opens up the left guard conversation for, well, is Michael Dieter going to be the guy? Are you going to put Kendrick Green at left guard? Are you going to put Broker, who is the rookie from Ole Miss that you picked up? Are you going to put him at left guard? You know, if you put Dieter at left guard, you can only elevate him 2 more times from the practice squad and put him at left guard before he's got to be on the roster. So what's the moving and shaking with the roster to make him there? But I don't believe they're going to sign anybody. I know everybody and their mom has mentioned the name Dalton Reisner. If Dalton Reisner was worth a crap or the team wanted to sign him, he'd be here. They're not going to sign Dalton Reisner. Now watch, after I say something like that, they're going to end up signing Dalton Reisner. But I don't believe they're going to sign Dalton Reisner. They've had 6 months to sign this guy. And they've had injuries showing up on the offensive line for the past few weeks to go in and bring him in. I mean, he hadn't even got a workout. Like, if Dalton Reisner was an option, I feel like we'd know at this point that Dalton Reisner was an option. But yeah, the shuffle on the offensive line. You got Laramie at left tackle, question mark at left guard for right now. Patterson at center, I would say he's done enough to keep the spot. Shaq Mason at right guard and question mark at right tackle while Fant's health is uncertain. You know, Fant can play. You play Fant at right tackle. You put Jones at left guard. Offensive line's the same. You run them back out there again. Hope they improve. If Fant can't go, Josh Jones is the guy that you would play at right tackle. So then that opens up the left guard spot. So there's some moving and shaking that needs to be done here on this offensive line, figuring out exactly what they need to do or what they want to do. Do you think Anderson gets double-digit sacks this season? Yes, I believe Will Anderson will get double-digit sacks this season. I believe Will Anderson will win the Defensive Rookie of the Year award as well. So, yes, I believe Anderson's going to be a monster, and he was a monster today. After today's game, can we best the Colts next week? Yes, you can. And there's a variety of reasons why I would say that. One, I don't believe the Colts are very good. Two, they got banged up coming out of this game, including Anthony Richardson might be banged up. Their quarterback, the number 4 overall pick, he might be banged up. He got hurt late in the game after the game was already seemingly in hand. He got hurt late in the game, and his status is now uncertain coming out of that game. So I believe you can certainly get to the Indianapolis Colts, be back at home. That's going to help with the offensive line. That's going to help with the game operation. the Texans burned a timeout coming out of a kickoff this year or this game. That's totally unacceptable. That cannot happen. So you can't burn a timeout coming out of a kickoff. That's when you should absolutely be ready to operate, get the play call in, motion anybody need to motion and run the play. A lot of that game operation stuff can get cleaned up in the short term and is easier to operate at home than it is on the road. Getting the play in, everybody hearing the play, everybody seeing the signals. The crowd's going to be quiet when the Texans are on offense. They were loud as hell when they were on offense this time. Christian Soto, thoughts on Stingley? Derek Stingley had the type of day that, for the most part, you kind of want Derek Stingley to have. I didn't like the pass interference on Odell Beckham. I understand why they called it. I didn't necessarily believe it was totally pass interference. I might have called defensive holding on that, but I didn't believe it was pass interference. But Stingley came in, made a really nice tackle early on. I think finished the day right around 3-4 tackles on the day. And Lamar had to hold the ball because when he looked at Derek Stingley, he had his guy locked up. So would you prefer to not have the defensive pass interference? Obviously. But Stingley not getting opportunities to play defense is partly because he's doing his job. Now, once we get to look again at the game, we may all have a little bit of a different opinion. The end zone footage is going to tell us how well Derek Stingley did a couple of times. And look, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. I do wonder, though, the Odell call, the pass interference on the sideline, that's one of those calls that I feel like Sauce Gardner got last year at the DB spot, and Derek Stingley didn't get this year. But solid day for Derek Stingley. I would say I'll go as far as to say good day for Derek Stingley because I didn't love the pass interference call. I didn't love that at all. Sean G, after week 4, and if Howard and Scruggs come back, would you like to see Patterson at guard? Give him an opportunity. Certainly. Give him a chance. And I wrote about this on Houston Football a few weeks ago, the candidates for left guard. As soon as center is squared away by Scruggs, that's when you can start putting Patterson into the conversation at left guard if you believe he's the guy that you want to play at left guard. So, yeah, I'd give him a shot. With the amount of pressure Will Anderson got on a mobile QB like Lamar, I'm excited to see him play a QB who's more of a pocket passer. Yeah, the tough part about that is the next few opponents, the guys have a little bit of mobility to them. So the Texans play Anthony Richardson at the Colts next week, so there's some mobility to him. After that, Trevor Lawrence does a pretty good job of manipulating. He's not speedy by any means, but he can get away from the rush. But Kenny Pickett, that's a guy that Will Anderson should be feasting on. Desmond Ridder, Derek Carr. After the bye week, Bryce Young. Yeah, Anderson's got an opportunity to get really, really mean on some of these quarterbacks that can't move around. I feel optimistic about the Colts at home, handled the mobile QB well, and expect the offense to be better, especially at home. And that's not a defense that's anywhere near as good as Baltimore's defense either. That's not a defense that is anywhere close to Baltimore's defense. So you should be able to get something going from the Texans' perspective a little bit better on offense than you did against Baltimore. Gardner Minshew is the backup. Gardner Minshew is the backup. That's a good question. We need safety. How long until Ward? I believe Jimmy Ward will play next week. I wonder if this week was more an approach of play him with risk or wait a week and play him with significantly less risk. And that's what it feels like to me. It feels like they decided to play Jimmy Ward next week with less risk than play him this week with a high risk that maybe the injury gets worse. Injury gets worse. Man, easy for me to say. Easy for me to say. Let's see. So does the football team need an O-line? Well, this one does. I need some help. I need some guys that can get a little cohesive. Brickva. Texans look mediocre at best today. Would you contribute this primarily to injuries? Well, I mean, there's a lot of factors. Injuries, inexperience, overall talent. Like there's a lot of reasons why the Texans maybe had a rough day. You know? It's not just the injuries. It's not just the inexperience. It's not just the talent. You slap all those together and it'll be tough. Ooh. Tyreek doing Tyreek things, man. He's nasty. Dime, just joined to talk about the aggressive play calling. How do you feel? I liked the decisions, the ideas behind the decisions. I didn't like the play call on the first one, and after the officials stopped the second one from operating as they were running it, I thought they should have punted. So while I like the idea behind it, the actual execution of it, I didn't love. M. Gentles 3, I was actually surprised by Stroud today. He surprised me. There were some plays, man, where, I mean, he did some stuff that there's not every quarterback can do. Not to say that he did anything that only CJ Stroud can do, because Lamar did one of those things today. Like Lamar had like one of those rollouts and rushes where it's like only Lamar can do that. But Stroud did some stuff that a small number of quarterbacks can do today. With some of the mobility behind the line of scrimmage, extending plays. Not every guy can do that like CJ Stroud did. Now, he's got to make better decisions with the football once the play gets extended, but not every guy can extend the play like he did. All right, so the rookie quarterbacks who played today, Anthony Richardson for the Colts, CJ Stroud for the Texans, and Bryce Young for the Panthers. The Ravens were the toughest opponent. The Colts, they played the New Orleans Saints. Now, it's no easy opponent, but it's not as tough as the Ravens. And the Panthers faced the Falcons. They were on the road. The Colts play the Jaguars at home. The Colts play the Jaguars at home. Not as tough as the Ravens. Not an easy opponent, but not as tough as the Ravens. And they were at home. Panthers on the road against the Falcons. That was a much easier opponent. Bryce Young threw 2 interceptions. Now, he bounced back from the interception to go and lead a touchdown drive coming out of that. So that's a good job by him. Richardson led some touchdown drives. He threw a screen to Michael Pittman that Pittman took 30 yards to the house. And again, that goes to put the ball in playmakers' hands if you're going to throw the ball sideways. So, they threw the ball sideways in Indianapolis, and Pittman took it to the house because he's a playmaker. So put the ball in playmakers' hands if you're going to throw the damn thing sideways. Texans didn't do that today. And so all the rookies took the L today. Bryce Young threw 2 interceptions. Anthony Richardson had some of the rushing success that you expect out of Anthony Richardson. He also threw an interception. CJ Stroud did not throw an interception, but he also did not throw a touchdown. So everybody's kind of all with each other. Stroud faced the toughest opponent. Richardson faced the middle defensive opponent. And then Young played the easiest defense out of the 3, in my opinion. And had some rough moments from what I understand. I can go back and watch some of these. The condensed games will be like 30 minutes, so we'll do a little watch through on those. But I got to go back and watch it. Being a box score bozo and watching some of the plays and reading some of the stuff that I saw, Stroud had a fine day compared to his rookie cohorts. Hated going for it on 4th down calls by the coaching staff. Punts are our friends. 7 of those points are on coach. Yeah. I mean, look, that's the when you go for it and you get it, everybody loves you and you're hailed as a genius. When you go for it, you don't get it, not everybody loves you. And you're not so smart at that point. I didn't get a chance to watch the press conference yet. CJ going to get his first TD next week for sure, though. He's going to get the first 2 or 3 next week. He's going to get after the Indianapolis Colts. I I am excited to see what the odds makers put for the line next week. And if it's already out, please somebody tell me. But I'm excited to see what the line is on the game next week. I like the Texans' chances a tremendous amount. Tremendous amount. Just an idea. Let's bootleg play action, feed Pierce the rock. Man, I tell you what. This rushing attack leaved a lot to be desired. The running backs averaged less than 3 yards per carry against Baltimore. Now, part of that's Baltimore. Part of that's the offensive line and the running backs. That's got to get better. That has to be better. You can't succeed with your running backs averaging 3 yards per carry. Okay? So scheme it up better. Run behind the guys that you trust. I felt like there were moments where the game was still close enough where you could run. You didn't have to throw the ball necessarily as much as the Texans did. And certainly early on, I felt like there were some opportunities to throw the ball or to run the ball instead of throwing the ball. Hey, the Texans, they got to adjust. They got to figure things out on the fly. You have 4 or 5 minutes to adjust, figure out what you want to do. Yeah, I don't like Noah Brown on the screens. So less Noah Brown on the screens, more D'Amico Ryan, or more Tank Dell on the screens. Yeah, you don't have to run the football or run the football well to have good play action, but it doesn't hurt. Like running the football well doesn't hurt your play action. It's not some massive improvement like some people believe it to be sometimes, but it doesn't hurt your play action to run the football. And Dameon Pierce was damn near 1,000-yard rusher last year with a worse offensive line than what they're working with now and a worse offense. I would think there would be more Dameon Pierce than what we saw today. Do we know how long Petrie will be out? No word on that yet. If you've seen an update on Twitter, please weigh in. I obviously cannot check Twitter as easily or as well on the live stream. But if you've seen an update, please weigh in. Let me know. But I would think that Petrie is going to miss next week. I would think that it's unlikely he's playing next week. Hopefully he doesn't miss the Jacksonville game on the road, the first one in the division on the road. If you want to get in from a video standpoint, I put the link in there. Call them calls, video calls, whatever. If you want to ask your question from a video call standpoint, you can get in there as well. Yeah, I mean, they worked Mike Boone in there. They seem to like him from a pass catching perspective. I wouldn't read too much into it. I would think you're going to add more, get more Dameon Pierce in there. Ooh, the Packers are tearing up the Bears. I was not a big Jordan Love guy, but I'm also not a big Justin Fields guy either. Justin Fields stinks. Bears are going to rue the day they traded that number 1 overall pick. Yeah, this is my biggest thing. I feel like they are going to annihilate the Colts next week. I might be wrong. I might be too down on the Colts, and I might be too high on the Texans after this performance. I believe they're going to kick the ever-living crap out of the Colts. I don't believe in Anthony Richardson. They don't have Jonathan Taylor. Their other running backs did not play really well. Their offensive line got dinged a little bit. Their defense stinks. I believe they're going to kick the crap out of the Colts next week. See, this is the thing. It's like, a higher floor with Gardner Minshew. Yeah, game operation. Game operation is something that's going to have to get better. And D'Amico Ryans preaches that. He talks a lot about game operation. Game operation's got to get better. Can't be using a timeout coming out of a kickoff. Petrie got hurt. Tackling Lamar Jackson at the end of the first half. Lamar got him with a knee in the chest, is what Tom Pelissero said. I had to go back and watch the play again, but I noticed people mentioning Petrie was slow to get up. This was slow to get up. Boy, Hunter Henry just made an incredible catch for the Patriots as they're trying to stick around with the Eagles. Goodness, one-handed like I didn't think they used Dalton Schultz as much either. Dalton Schultz should have got used a little bit more. Did I have higher on 3.5 Dalton Schultz receptions on Underdog Fantasy? Yeah, I did. Overall impression on the defense. Looked good in the first half, took the ball away a couple times, ran out of gas in the fourth. Yeah, part of the running out of the gas is you're playing Baltimore, you're playing on the road. It's your first real game. You're still getting your win in underneath you. And Baltimore had some tough drives. It wasn't big pop plays a lot of times in Baltimore, but they kind of grinded out this Texans defense a little bit. So the defense impressed me a couple of different ways. Linebackers in stopping the run played pretty well. Defensive line was mauling. That's not a bad offensive line for the Baltimore Ravens. Defensive line was mauling a couple of different times. And I'm interested to see what this defensive line does to build on it. The thing with the defense here is you got to figure out the safety spot now. Murray and MJ Stewart didn't play bad when they got in there. And Murray was in there on a couple of stops. MJ Stewart recovered the fumble when Lamar just kind of just dropped the ball. And then Grenard played well on the defensive line. That's a guy that needs to play pretty well. So there's a lot to try to figure out about this defense. I don't think it was as I felt like it was a solid performance and much better than overall a lot of the defensive performances we've seen in the past couple of years from this team. Oh, poor Mac Jones. Yeah, Eagles, nasty. Oh, I think he just hurt his knee. Jalen Carter was in on that play. Jalen Carter, the contender for Will Anderson's Defensive Rookie of the Year. JJ Stagg, Grenard and Will going to be a nasty duo. Collins making a guest appearance every now and then. Yeah, Malik Collins is playing the best football of his career. And he sort of helped Grenard get that sack. Will brought the pressure from the left, Collins from the right inside, and the next thing you know, Grenard's wrapping up Lamar. So there's something to like there. And hey, Ting Quintiriano had himself a nice little catch. He's not better than Dalton Schultz, though. I don't trust him to that level, but Quintiriano had a nice little catch. Battle the rookie head coaches next week. Defense wins championships. Defense going to need to be good next week. Just good. Look, we talk about Stroud getting better from week to week. We talk about the team getting better from week to week. Everybody else could try to get better too. The Indianapolis Colts, Shane Steichen's a really good coach. I like Shane Steichen a lot. He was my preferred non-D'Amico option. And with that, I mean, I am excited to see this Texans team against this Colts team, not because I don't believe Steichen can get some things corrected with the Colts, but because I don't believe in this Colts team. And the Texans at home should be a very tough out for the way the Colts are constructed right now. All right. A couple more. We have safety depth, just our starting safeties, two of our better defensive players. Yeah, and it's two captains, too. The two starting safeties, Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie, two of your better players in the secondary. So you need both of them back. I would think Ward's back next week. Let's see when Petrie can get back. Yeah, Ting Quintiriano, I actually felt like the officials missed a call on this. So they got a face mask. They called a face mask on the Ravens on this play that Quintiriano went down the sideline. I felt like Quintiriano himself was tackled by the face mask. And I felt like the officials blew that call. So Officiating was rough. The roughing the passer on C.J. Stroud wasn't a good call. The phantom holding call on Laramie Tunsil was awful. Steven Nelson's pass interference on Odell Beckham. The ball was uncatchable. Odell could have been Mr. Fantastic. He wouldn't have been able to stretch his arms out and get that. So, well, the officials had a rough day. It's their first game too. Sean G, a Cleveland win, a Texans loss is not a good start for Marvin Harrison Jr. pizza party. Yeah, you're right about that. You are right about that. If you are unaware of what Sean is talking about, Jalen Hurts is disgusting. If you're unaware what Sean is talking about, I've made the proclamation. I call it the Pizza Party Proclamation. I've made the Pizza Party Proclamation that if the Browns selection ends up netting the Houston Texans Marvin Harrison Jr. in next year's draft, then I will throw a pizza party with free pizza and some beer for everybody, and we'll all have a fun time, and then I'll raffle off a Marvin Harrison Jr. Texans jersey. So we're all rooting for the Browns to be bad and the Texans to be much better, and for Marvin Harrison Jr. to end up in a Texans uniform. Quit play hating. Cleveland will find a way to bottom out. I ain't sweating. It's funny when you say this when your name's Quit Play Hating. I like it. I like it. Well, I'm not giving up on CJ Stroud. You shouldn't either. Shame on you. Shame on you. On the nail with the officiating. Yeah, the official stunk, man. Didn't like the roughing the passer on Stroud. Missed a face mask. Missed a ton of holding calls. I felt like every Texans lineman looked like this. Like every defensive lineman looked like that. The holding, and look, maybe you're going to get those calls in Houston. Maybe that's just in Baltimore. Hey, take care of the home crowd. But I mean, every defensive lineman's jersey looked like this. Had a freaking Raven glove on it. You know? All right. Houston Football is the website. www.houfootball.com. www.houfootball.com. There's a link in the description. Down below, you can get started for just $7 a month on the site. There's free stuff, but you get everything for just $7 a month, and you get some great perks. Not just the writing. You get a little bit more when you sign up at Houston Football. Got some fun stuff planned for the YouTube channel this week. Got some new sponsors that you guys are going to want to hear about and some fun opportunities from that standpoint. Got some fun video ideas. Might even try to work in a guest or two over the course of the week, find out a little bit about this Indianapolis Colts team. We're going to have a bunch of fun stuff on Houston Football. So again, I encourage you guys to subscribe to Houston Football. The link is in the description down below. It's a just $7 a month commitment, and you get all the writing and a bunch of other fun stuff. And we will start the next raffle this week. We will start the next raffle this week. So be looking for that, and the information for that will be in the description of the future videos as well. So that'll do it. That'll do it for me today. Appreciate everybody jumping in. If you're watching this after the fact and you sat through the whole hour, appreciate you. If you are watching this live and you've had some comments, appreciate you as well. If Harrison gets entered as a stock drop, yeah, one spot. Guy's not making it out of the top 5. So the Browns got to be bad. Browns got to be very bad. Very bad. All right. Wrapping up the live here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. This is the first game day. We're going to get even better. We're going to have even more fun on game days because we're going to talk about wins on game days. And we're going to talk about a win next week after the game as well. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate everyone with the likes, the subscriptions, all those fun things. And today for my first game day doing the Houston Football YouTube setup, not being with the radio stations anymore, it's been a lot of fun. And I feel the support, and I wholeheartedly want to always appear grateful to you who support me, from the likes to subscribing to Houston Football to subscribing to the YouTube to visiting any of our sponsors, thank you. Thank you. We have such a fun season ahead of us. I can't believe it's already here. And I can't believe week 1 is already over. Lots to still get into. Be watching here and on Houston Football. We'll have it covered for you. And as you see here, it's my charge to you. It's also my hope to you as we finish up each and every live stream. Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again here soon.